to be taken up tomorrow.
Let us see whether we can finish.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Sir, finally I've been allowed to speak, and I thank you for that. Because twice my name was announced and somebody else spoke in my place. I thank them for finishing the speech so I could start mine. Sir, any economic legislation, or for that matter any legislation, and particularly so a quasi-economic legislation like this, the merit of it should be considered in the broader perspective of the country's economy and social structure. Sir, this bill seeks to introduce certain changes in the insurance sector. So today we have been witnessing a crying need for water, drinking water, roads, need for power, a general need to invest into infrastructure in the country. So the common minimum program of the government talks about $200 billion of investment that is needed in infrastructure. The Krishnamon Committee report talks about something like $165 billion. So the investment that is needed to go into infrastructure has necessarily to be a long-term maturity investment. The investment which will have a long gestation period will have to go into infrastructure. Sir, today our country is really facing this problem of how to find funds to fund these infrastructure needs of the government of the country. And there the insurance sector can play a very important role in finding these savings. Sir, a country of size, as has been mentioned by my illustrious colleague, that we have a large population but not so many insured in the country. So he has already given numbers of companies in some countries. I would just like to give some information on that. So India spends 0.56% of the GDP on insurance, the total amount of premiums put together. Whereas a country like Germany spends 4.07%. USA spends 5.18% of the amount on GDP. Small island Barbados spends 6.29% on that, and there are collection on that. And a country like Mexico is 4.85%. So the India has very less savings coming into the stream from insurance sector. At the same time, India needs large investment to go into infrastructure which could be provided by insurance. And in this light, I think this bill, this legislation which is going to introduce some changes into this sector are welcome. So as a member of the Standing Committee on Finance, we had considered this bill and also recommended this bill for consideration by the Parliament, and I recommended that it should be considered favorably. So there are, though I would like to generally welcome the bill, I would like to mention some of the things which are very important, which should, I feel, should have been considered as part of the legislation. Sir, number one, this bill is bringing about as a recommendation of R.N. Malhotra Committee report. So it is really the time we should know what is the total fate of the R.N. Malhotra Committee report. Whether the report has been accepted by the government, the report is rejected by the government, or what is the status of that report should something we should really know, because this is an offshoot of that report. Sir, one of the idea of that recommendation of that report was an IRA should be established. And there is already a regulatory body, non-statutory, which is functioning in the country. So this is not something, a new development, that a new body is going to be created, because it is actually replacing a non-statutory body with a statutory body, probably which will protect interest of the insured in a better manner than the present one. Sir, one of the idea was that this body will be autonomous, we should be free of government controls, but the provisions contained in the bill makes it like a part of the government department and really does not give it a status of type of SEBI that is really contemplated in the objects of the bill. And I think there needs probably some changes, a fresh look at that, so that this bill becomes something, the act, when it will actually be passed by the Parliament, to really take shape of and give the type of powers that are really contemplated by the objects of the bill. So there are three laws: the Insurance Act 1938, the LIC when it was nationalized in 1956, as well as the General Insurance Business Act 1972. So all this piecemeal legislation is really not serving the purpose for which this bill has been introduced. Probably a comprehensive bill would have served the purpose in a better manner. Sir, this composition of IRA says that it will have 4 or 5 members, but it really means that these members would be really subservient to the government department, and probably in the Ministry of Finance, the insurance wing of that would really be looking after it. So there should be a provision which gives the Insurance Regulatory Authority chairman the powers that are really befitting the status that it enjoys. And I think it should really have a rank of secretary plus, which should be assigned to that, which is really not pensioner. So the present chairman of the IRA, Mr. Rangachari, was a former chairman of CBDT. In that capacity, he was really enjoying a type of status that should be really reflected in his position, and I think this should be really introduced. Sir, the money that is needed, I was mentioning, the pension funds, the life insurance money, we should be really mobilized in the country, could probably will be possible if it is not necessarily that we set up an IRA that this is going to happen. We'll have to probably steps so that such money, such savings could be coming into the system whereby it could be used for infrastructure. Sir, there are certain fears, certain apprehensions which are expressed, but the present provisions in the bill do not really warrant that such apprehensions could find place into certain provisions of the bill anywhere. I was listening very carefully to my friend Mr. Jose when he was giving a rationale behind why such bill should be introduced. So the GIC, the LIC have really done a job that they were expected to perform, but the bill does not nowhere mention, I was going through it very carefully to find out whether it denationalizes those companies. I not really found that it is really going to do that. No, I know. Or is the bill trying to say something which will bring in some new players so that they will be destabilized? I don't think there is any provision in this bill which should really try to say that. So I think on such apprehension which is expressed, I was wondering whether there is also some legislation which is introduced simultaneously along with this, to which these references were made. But I think we are all talking about the Insurance Regulatory Authority bill, in which fortunately such apprehensions do not find any place. So I think this bill needs a support. However, sir, the per employee business that the present employees who are employed in the insurance sector are doing, I think I will be happy if we get the figures from the finance minister as to what is the per employee business that is transacted by these employees today in these insurance companies. Sir, one thing I am aware that there is a provision into this General Insurance Act that only 18% of the total premium, gross premium earned by the corporation could be spent on establishment. The last year we have spent something like 27% on 31st March 1997. The accounts are yet to be presented to the Parliament. So I think the information, probably only the finance minister is privy to this information. He can probably pass it on, whether it is true that almost 50% more than what should have been spent has been spent on establishment by these two corporations. If it is so, then we are actually running into the reserves which have been created to meet the obligations of the policyholders, and this could be something which could not be in the interest of the policyholders. Sir, I would like to know one or two things which are very important from the perspective of protecting the interest. Please. Yes, sir. Protecting the interest of the country. Sir, their apprehensions have been raised particularly about the entry of foreign companies into the insurance sector. Sir, I am aware of the fact that the Indian companies it is presupposing that the Indian companies will not be competent enough to carry out the business that the insurance is going to be probably allowing them to participate. Of course, there is no specific provision on that count. I feel we must make sure that the foreign companies would not enter this sector to the detrimental of the interest of the Indian economy. And I don't think there is any need at this stage, particularly now, to really find out how this interest is going to be protected, and that is something which I would like the government to answer. Sir, one other important point, that sir, social insurance, the rural insurance, there have not been any attempt made so far to reach out to that sector in which the rural population needs the cover because they are the most vulnerable. The insurance tries to provide a cover against risk to the most vulnerable section of society. So that section of society has really not been covered by the insurance industry in a big way. I would like to know, after the establishment of this IRA, how this segment of population is going to be properly covered by this, against the risk that they suffer the most, and also in that whether, if at all, there is any possibility of some more players to come into picture. Is the government thinking of even allowing the cooperatives to come into that, so that they can also reach out to this section to which they are already serving? Sir, the present employees employed by the General Insurance Corporation as well as the LIC have been agitating against this move, probably of introducing a foreign or a private participation into the insurance sector. Sir, the views and their apprehensions need to be addressed correctly, so that there is no room for them to feel that opening up of the sector is going to be detrimental to their interest as well.
Please conclude.
In fact, the only interest that we really should try to serve is the interest of the policyholders, which I think, as well as our society, which needs the infrastructure very badly. If it is served by the bill, I support it. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mukherjee, 5 minutes. Not Chatterjee. No talk, please.
Thank you.